is Indian Country Today.
Esquili, yes, thank you for joining us. I'm Patty Thalahungva. It's not the outcome Tricia Zunker wanted. She lost last night in a special congressional election in Wisconsin. Zunker, a Democrat, lost to Republican Tom Tiffany. The seat in U.S. District 7 is heavily Republican. She was hoping to become the first Native American elected to Congress in Wisconsin. Zunker is Ho-Chunk. She posted a video on Facebook after her defeat saying she laid the groundwork to run again in November. Some Cherokee Nation employees will return to work on June 1st. It's part of a phased reopening by the tribe in Oklahoma. Currently, the nation has less than 100 positive COVID-19 cases. Employee shifts will be staggered to reduce the number of people in the tribal buildings. Everyone must wear a face mask, and they will be instructed to social distance. Most employees have been working from home since March 16th. Employees 65 years or older and those with high-risk health conditions are exempt from returning to work. Deputy Principal Chief Brian Warner says they know the virus doesn't follow anyone's timetable but its own, so the nation will adjust its plans and slowly reopen to keep the cases contained. Diapers, baby food, and even children's books are being delivered to 17 pueblos in New Mexico. The deliveries are being made by the New Mexico Indian Affairs Department and the state's Early Childhood Education and Care Department. The care packages will also be delivered to Apache and Navajo tribes in the state. Volunteers are helping with deliveries that so far have included nearly 30,000 pounds of food and supplies. Lynn Trujillo, the Indian Affairs Cabinet Secretary, says each tribal community is getting the supplies it specifically requested. The packages contain a 1-month supply of items. Now for the latest number of COVID positive cases in Indian Country, let's go to Jordan Bennett-Begay, our Washington editor. Jordan?
Yate Patty, Yate Shikisto Shidine. So as of this morning, there are a total of 4,544 positive confirmed cases and 134 deaths within the Indian health system. Again, that is 4,544 positive confirmed cases and 134 deaths within the Indian health system. And this is according to Indian Country Today's data that we are keeping track of. The Navajo Nation have an additional 41 new cases and 1 death that they reported. The Kewah Pueblo in New Mexico has a total of 15 new cases, but it's interesting how this is broken down. They have 9 within their community, the Kewah Pueblo, but they also, the Santo Domingo Health Center tested 6 additional people. So they're breaking their data up into, who's testing, what health center's testing it, and also the positive cases within their community. And we're still including those numbers, Patty, because these are tribal health resources that are being tested for these individuals. In the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, they reported 4 new cases within their tribal community. They have a total of 5 community members who now have it, but they also have an additional individual who is the first person tested within the community, and the individual is a member of another federally recognized tribe. And the White Mountain Apache has 13 new cases, but what's surprising about the White Mountain Apache tribe in Arizona is they have now a total of 301 cases. And this is, coming as the state of Arizona is now opening up new businesses and, really, whereas Navajo Nation, they're not doing that. They're saying they're listening to their own health experts and not opening up their businesses as of today.
Now, that is interesting because the other tribe you mentioned, the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, they're located right in the greater Phoenix, Arizona Valley. So they are not opening up the casinos that they own and operate. And again, Arizona is starting to come back online and some businesses are opening up. So it's interesting to see how perhaps there's a difference between tribal nations in Arizona and the governor of Arizona saying he's going to open up the state again. And alarmingly, the number of the rising cases in the White Mountain Apache tribe, which is in northeastern Arizona.
Yeah, so it is. And, the tribes are still trying to, again, listen to their own health experts on saying, we are not doing this because we are still trying to flatten the curve. And that's what, the tribal chairmen and tribal leaders are trying to communicate to their citizens.
Sure. Jordan Bennett-Begay, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back. This coronavirus pandemic is making leaders rethink how to go about business, education, shopping, and even how we enjoy recreational activities. This includes going to casinos. Right now, hundreds of tribally owned casinos are closed. As they plan to reopen, what will that look like? How will social distancing be implemented on casino floors that are usually packed? Another big change could be in the area of smoking and whether or not tribally owned casinos will reopen smoke-free. Joining us today is Clinton Isham, and he has led since 2015 a campaign to get tribal casinos to go smoke-free. Clinton, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What are you seeing on the national level with tribally owned casinos going smoke-free?
Well, before the coronavirus pandemic, there wasn't many casinos that were actually smoke-free or in the process of going smoke-free. Before the pandemic, there are around 7 tribally owned casinos across different parts of the United States that were 100% smoke-free. But after the pandemic, and once these casinos were closed, and I think the managers started to think about how to reopen in the best possible way with it, keeping in mind people's health, their employees' health. There have been some casinos in Washington State right now that have went 100% smoke-free. So they're including it in their plan of reopening. That measure to kind of keep people safe is reopening 100% smoke-free and vape-free.
Now, you also started a campaign, a social media campaign, asking people to send you videos about why they think casinos should go smoke-free. How has that gone? What kind of response have you had from people?
I've created 2-minute videos so far that are either on Facebook, or if you look on, I'm a consultant with Americans for Non-Smokers Rights Foundation, and the videos are on their website. The videos are on their website if you enter anrf.org. But the 2-minute videos I created so far, one focuses on the health benefits of tribal casinos going smoke-free, and the other focuses on financial benefits of tribal casinos going smoke-free. And these videos include different interviews from the people that have sent in clips requesting tribal leaders to go smoke-free or wanting them to go smoke-free. I mentioned that there are 3 casinos in Washington that already have went smoke-free, and they posted the announcement on their Facebook website. And so, for example, there's one casino called Angel of the Winds in Washington. When they posted it, within a couple of hours, there was like over 1,000 comments from their patrons. All of them were overwhelmingly supportive of this casino going smoke-free. So it's definitely looks like it's what the people want, what the patrons want from these casinos in their areas.
And one of the interviews that is included in the video is from somebody who is a performer in the casino. He's a singer, and he talked about how that smoke impacts him and his voice as a singer, and also how he would, spend more time in the casino if it were smoke-free.
Yeah, definitely. There's a study out there called Gambling with Our Health that was published several years ago, but what this study said was that if casinos were to go smoke-free, the higher tier club members, so people in the kind of higher socioeconomical status that have player club cards at the casinos, that they would sit on any given machine for a longer period of time if these if the environment was smoke-free. So what that means is that the casinos would then earn more money. And so there are a lot of, there's one casino in particular that went smoke-free, and a lot of their comments from their patrons were overwhelmingly supportive. And I think generally I hear from time to time from doing this work from different people, why don't casinos go smoke-free? I would definitely spend way much more time in these casinos if they're smoke-free. And I think that is just the general consensus with the public is they want them to be smoke-free. They want to be in these casinos. They want to spend their hard-earned money at these casinos, support tribes. And just the one thing that they don't like is all the smoking around them and having to breathe in that the different things that secondhand smoke entails.
And one of the comments in, I believe it was the videos, it said that no amount of secondhand smoke is safe. And so that was another reason why casino leadership was starting to look at becoming smoke-free. Do you have more information on that study? Or even the study that says in 1980, the number of people who smoked in the US was quite high, but today in 2020, the rate of smokers has decreased quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. So the CDC does a number of different studies with people across the United States every year, and they ask a number of questions, but sometimes the questions are on smoking rates. So they ask people how much they smoke every year. And ever since the data was starting to be taken around in the 1960s, the adult smoking rate has went down significantly. And then they started taking the youth smoking rate sometime around the 1990s. There was a large peak somewhere in the 90s, but that also has dropped significantly low. There was several Surgeon General reports that came out, and they're the ones that have explicitly said that there is no level of safe exposure to secondhand smoke. And so that's where that comes from. And the data around the drop in smoking rates come from the CDC.
Clinton, tell us about your own personal story with smoking.
I really don't have any personal experience. I used to smoke when I was a lot younger. When I finished school in around 2014, I graduated University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. I started with Great Lakes Intertribal Council as a director for Wisconsin Native American Tobacco Network. And the kind of world, the public health world and things around tobacco was completely brand new to me. My background was in policy, and but the kind of tobacco field and the commercial tobacco and traditional tobacco field kind of fell in my lap back in 2014 and 2015, and I've just been running with it ever since. It's been great. We've done a lot of great work, both with American Non-Smokers Rights Foundation, Great Lakes Intertribal Council, and a number of other different organizations that that all continuously work on this issue.
You had an experience where you realized that the tobacco you grew up with was the commercial tobacco and not the traditional tobacco that's held sacred by so many Native tribes.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was my own research when I got older and learning about what traditional tobacco is. And I feel like over time, it's really been like a unique one-to-one relationship that I've developed with sacred tobacco and just using it every morning and just continuously practicing and learning about what it is. And I learned from different elders, and I try my best just to try to understand it more and more, but it's definitely taken on a different role. And I feel like I try to share that message with people that commercial tobacco and traditional tobacco are two completely different things. And I think my experience is once I started to learn about traditional tobacco, like a whole other world kind of opened up for me. And it really drew a line between the two different types of tobacco. And and that the message of reclaiming traditional tobacco came with that. The message of how do we protect the health of tribal citizens came with that. And the last thing is, how do we communicate with tribal leaders and tribal gaming leaders to kind of really hear this message about why it's important for these casinos to open smoke free, and how do we get that message to them in a good way, in a way that supports tribal casinos. And so yeah, I think that's really kind of where all of this has taken me so far.
When you were the director of the Wisconsin Native American Tobacco Network, you had experience with changing the culture of the Indian Bowl. Tell us about that. This is a place where powwows are held as well.
Yeah, that was really fun. There was a lot of people involved, a lot of community members involved with that. There was a general notion that kind of changing these social norms is impossible, right? Like, we could never have casinos be smoke free, and we could never see powwows that are smoke free. And people believe that those habits and those things are impossible to change. My experience is that they are very possible to change. And one example that you brought up is working with the Indian Bowl in Lac du Flambeau. This has been a powwow ground since the 1950s in Lac du Flambeau. And what we did was we organized with all the people involved with the powwow. We created talking points and why it was important for people not to smoke at the powwow. And we provided spaces outside of the arena. And this is an outdoor arena. We provided spaces away from everybody to smoke. And I think the main thing was we just didn't want kids to see that this is the normal thing, that commercial tobacco is our tobacco. We didn't want them to learn that. And so we went with this policy, and it was really amazing. During like the third powwow that we had, I was walking downstairs, and there was an elderly woman smoking a cigarette. And I was scared, I was scared to tell her, like, hey, you got to put that out. But I asked her very nicely, and I told her the reasons why we were doing this. And I said, we just don't want our kids to grow up thinking that this is their tobacco to use. It's not. And she put out the cigarette and she said, thank you so much for doing this. I've been waiting many years for something like this to happen here. I'm very happy it's happening now. So I just want to reaffirm that these types of things are possible. They've worked at smoke-free tribal casinos. They've benefited, these casinos have benefited from these policies, and they bring nothing but good things. So.
Wow. Well, I can't imagine the fear that you would have to approach an elder and ask her to stop doing something.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that fear is not only with elders, but it's across the board with anybody. And in my message, it's not that I'd want you to quit smoking, right? It's like I would never tell somebody that what you're doing is wrong or to stop doing what you're doing in your life altogether. I think the main thing with tobacco control on tribal communities, and what we were trying to point out again, is that we just don't want our kids to see that this is normal for them growing up, that this is a normal thing. Like, that commercial tobacco is not our tobacco. That is not something that they should grow up with and consume or even use. And that there's another whole other side of tobacco, which is traditional spiritual tobacco, sema. And we want to teach these kids that this is normal, that this is the way, that this is what you use at these powwows, and this is how you use it, and to have them grow up with that teaching and that aspect of it. And I think when we go to tribal leaders and tribal gaming managers and elders with that perspective, that this is more about our spiritual health, this is about our health overall, this is about future generations, then they'll listen. Then they'll say, okay, maybe this will work. Maybe this is a good idea. But we can't, I would never want to come in aggressive and say, hey, I'm pointing my fingers and what you're doing is wrong and you need to stop this and you need to stop that. And that's definitely not the approach that we want to take.
Well, so an approach in a respectful manner, that's what I'm trying to get out here, is always important, and then to explain again what you're doing there. But yet, casinos have to make money, and there's been a big pushback from some casinos that say they need, smoking and drinking go hand in hand when it comes to somebody playing slot machines or any kind of gaming. So what kind of financial data do you have that could combat that argument?
Yeah. So I just want to point out that providing smoke-free spaces is one of the healthiest things a casino could do. And there was a survey done again called Gambling with Our Health that was very explicit, saying that tribal gaming facilities will not lose money if they went smoke-free. In fact, they will earn more revenue. And so the science was behind that. And then we have a video that was published that was funded by American Public Health Association called Honoring Our Health and Tobacco. And there's a smoke-free tribal casino that is featured on there, Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison. The gaming manager, Dan Brown, explicitly says that his casino went smoke-free, and they allow alcohol at the premises, and they are doing way better than they ever were before. They're earning more revenue, and it was a great decision all around for their casino. And the other thing is that the CDC did a study a couple of years ago, and they asked thousands of casino goers whether or not they prefer smoking in casinos, and over 75% of them stated that they would rather have smoke-free policies in casinos, and over 50% of smokers said that they would rather have smoke-free facilities at the casinos. So the data is all there, and it's very clear.
So again, the casinos that are going smoke-free aren't seeing a decline in revenues. And so that's an interesting aspect when you're looking at how our casino is going to reopen in this environment. And does that go across the board for any type of gaming, whether it's slot machines or card tables or, bingo halls?
Yeah. So I can't speak directly to the other casinos that are smoke-free or that are going smoke-free. I've never done like in-depth analyses with them and whether or not they would lose money at different floors or different class types of casinos. Like I said, I've only worked with Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, which we have a video with them, and they have said that they are doing a lot better financially, and their health and their employees have stated that their health is they feel a lot better overall health-wise because
the workers.
of smoke-free. Yeah, the workers and employees.
All right. And right before this pandemic really hit, back in January, the ANR Foundation held a meeting, and there were a number of tribes there, including the Navajo Nation, Oglala Sioux Tribe, Ho-Chunk, of course, and the Great Lakes Intertribal Council also attended, or I believe helped sponsor that, to discuss this idea of a smoke-free environment in tribally owned casinos. Do you know what came from that meeting?
Yeah, we have meetings and calls all the time to discuss this. And the main thing is the discussion points are how do we communicate with tribal leaders and tribal gaming leaders the best possible way, and how do we share with them these resources that we have that show that there are financial benefits to going smoke-free. There are health benefits to going smoke-free. We have the data. How do we share it with them and in a way that they'll be receptive and at least consider the opportunity of going smoke-free? In fact, we have a webinar this Friday taking place with a number of different organizations, including Keep It Sacred, organization
we can put that information up on our website as well.
So we have meetings all the time regarding this topic, including a huge national webinar this Friday around this topic. And so it's always in discussion, and we're always looking for new ideas and how we get this information out there.
Okay, well, Clinton Isham, thank you so much for joining us and talking about your effort to create smoke-free casino environments in India.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we appreciate you watching Indian Country Today. Take care of yourselves. Your life is precious. I'm Patty Tolongva. We'll see you again tomorrow.
This is Indian Country Today.